Okay, everyone. I apologize to everyone who was hoping to see Liv Ingeborg in this chair, but she sadly is at home, coughing and sneezing, I think. So I'll be stepping in today. Also, just to say that it's Mary Jane is in charge of the computer and will be taking the questions from the Zoom audience once that arrives. Anyway. Welcome to the CASR Lunch, and we are delighted that today we have Guro Samuelson that's talking to us, and her topic is mediation in populist political mobilization. Now, so the deal is, everyone, Guro has 13 minutes to talk, and then we have a discussion or a conversation, or we want to hear all your questions and comments for another 13 minutes while we enjoy our lunch or coffee. Yeah, so that's the setup. Anyway, Guro, we're really looking forward to hearing what you have to tell us.
Thank you so much, Lars. Thank you for Mary Jane and to Liv Ingeborg, who's not here, for asking me to talk to you all. So what I would like to present to you today is based on an article that I am writing with Hanne Amanda Trangerud, who is a scholar of religious studies at UIO. And so this is a work in progress and something that I am hoping and thought that it would be sort of fruitful to put out there for you and to get your input and questions on. So what we're doing in this article is that we are looking at claims that have been made, public claims that have been made for the elevation, the sanctification, I don't think that's a word, but making someone into a saint, or a deification of the populist leader. So these are claims that the political leader is either God or someone who has been chosen by God to lead his country. So basically claims of political theology, that the leader has been chosen to play a particular role in what is laid out as a sort of predetermined sequence of events, preordained by a higher power. And then, of course, these are events that will save the nation through radically altering its political trajectory. And the cases that we are working with are from India and the United States, respectively. And but for this talk, I will draw on the Indian case. So the question that we're posing is what was implied in the title: what is the role of mediators and mediation in populist political mobilization today? Now, in the scholarship on populism, this idea that the direct and unmediated communication between the leader and the people, however construed, is is seen by many as one of the sort of defining features of populism. Of course, there is no unison agreement on this. Populism is a slippery concept and contested to the extent that I would say it's now customary, both in books and articles, to begin with acknowledging the lack of conceptual clarity and the lack of agreement in the field on what the concept of populism entails. So is it an ideology? Is it a popular protest form of political mobilization? Is it a political style? Or is it a form of political communication? There is a very basic minimum that is generally agreed upon, that populism refers to the dynamic in play between a political leader or a movement that seeks to represent a true people, as this people is construed in opposition to an antagonistic or invasive other, and that it formulates a strong sense of conflict between this true people and an established and often deceitful or evil elite. So this argument that populism is a political strategy characterized by direct and unmediated communication, which is what we are sort of trying to dig into or criticize in our paper, is, I would say, of a sort of a second order. It's not sort of the most agreed upon tenet in contemporary scholarship on populism, but it is argued often enough. And of course, this argument has seen a renaissance now in connection with changes in social, with media and communication, the communication revolution that the internet and social media represents. So social media is seen as exactly as this kind of an enabling driver, enabling direct and unmediated communication across this division between the elite and the people. And so, of course, also because we have ample evidence of populists taking up this, using social media, being prolific. And if we look then at these cases, so both Donald Trump and Narendra Modi seem to fit this bill quite well in many ways. Both leaders have, in slightly different ways, but they have turned away from the traditional channels of communication, mainstream media, press conferences. Now, Trump did press conferences, but sort of his way of conducting them was very different. Press releases, and both leaders have substituted these with, I would say, mainly two other forms of communication, where one is mass meetings, addressing mass meetings or political rallies that are of a very partisan nature, where they speak, but they speak in uninterrupted ways, and they speak to their in-groups, their enthusiastic crowds of followers. And the other sort of leg that they're standing on is social media, to use social media, particularly Twitter, also to make sort of high-level diplomacy and governance statements and announcements. So there are other scholars as well. I'm drawing here on Moffat's work, who have cautioned us to sort of look more closely at some of these assumptions about the relationship between populism and social media. So one is the tendency to mistake the directness in communication for being in touch with the people. And a second would be the fetishization, this is Moffat's term, of the unmediated nature of populism. And, you know, a tendency to sort of ignore the fact that all political representative claims are mediated. And these are the two most central to what we are doing in this article. But what we see in general in the mobilization that has been going on in India for the past 8 years, the massive scale and the massive permeation of Narendra Modi's electoral campaigns have relied heavily on the mobilization and labor of voluntary intermediaries, and on various forms of mediated communication. So this is a sort of a big, there are many different kinds of empirical examples that I could draw upon. So I will only go into one to try to exemplify. Since 2013, since the beginning of the electoral campaigning in India in 2013, there have been several popular cultural productions centered on the life and the person of India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So there is the movie PM Narendra Modi, a large Bollywood production that came out in 2019, just before the general election, or then it was stalled, but it came out right after. And so to take this as an example, this is not state propaganda. This is not commissioned or financed directly by the government, but it is a Bollywood production with sort of these mainstream Bollywood directors and producers who have gone into this project and are telling a story that is partly told by Narendra Modi himself through various snippets here and there through social media and other channels, but also a story that sort of has acquired a life of its own that exists in many different versions. And so one of the things that we're looking at is how often when we think of social media, the benefits that are pointed to is that, you know, it allows for this communication to be two ways, that people, you know, ordinary people can also communicate directly with their leaders and so on. But what we see, I think, in both the cases is sort of the emergence of a different layer or a different strata of intermediaries, that they're not representative of any of course, not in a formal democratic sense, but also not in any way. But they have the resources and the interest to somehow inject themselves into the discourse and to take part in the creation of this image of and just to mention that some of the individuals that we're looking at in the US case are these evangelical pastors and sort of spiritual advisors that shaped the discourse around Donald Trump. So what we're trying to argue on the basis of this, I'm coming to just is that at least in these instances, we can see that the populist discourse is heavily mediated, but it doesn't of populism and politics more generally, because they're not formal, written, or oral statements, but rely primarily on other forms of communication, the visual, religious, forms of sort of telling the story, telling the narrative. And the other is the what I referred to earlier, the emergence of sort of a different kind of political actor who is completely on the side of any formal political party or organization, not elected, but who are able to and who has an interest in stepping into the political realm as a mediator, as someone who mediates communication between the people and the leader, bypassing sort of the established fourth estate. And of course, these are not critical. You know, that's what makes them very different. They are more of a supporter or a bhakt, a devotee, as we would say in the Indian context, than they are a critical sort of voicing criticism or being a watchdog towards the politician or the government, as the media would. Yes, I think I will end there.
Perfect timing.
And then I hope that you have questions and
excellent. Well, thank you very much, Guro. It's very timely. It's happening right now, and I'm